What is healing? What is healing? It is the body's capacity to regenerate, repair, and improve itself. The human body has an innate ability, an innate intelligence that allows it to heal itself so that it can fulfill its evolutionary mission to reproduce and propagate itself. Much of it involves movement, proper movement of breath, ideas, feelings, blood, waste, energy, spirit. Everything about healing and health involves movement. When it cannot heal itself, it needs assistance from other humans. How early did this begin? Given that it is estimated that Homo sapiens may be as much as 300,000 years old, healing goes back much further than once thought. Healing in the Paleolithic Era. Early humans were totally immersed in the natural environment, much of it a mystery. Therefore, they felt there were unseen forces and spirits guiding affairs on the earthly plane. Because they were subjected to huge natural forces, volcanoes, thunder, lightning, earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, meteors, floods, and the onslaught of insects and wildlife, they knew they were not in control. So, if they were not in control, the question naturally arises, who or what is in control? This fundamental question, like today, has still not been definitively answered. For them, it was the spirits or unseen spiritual forces governing the universe. Therefore, for healing and all their affairs, the next question was, how do we appeal to them? How do we talk to them? This became the source of the first ceremonies, incantations, rituals, and practices of worship over 200,000 years ago. Numerous rock paintings, artifacts, and burial remains attest to the knowledge that early humans soon realized that there was a natural balance to life and nature. Much of healing and life itself was then seen as trying to maintain and respect that balance. The earliest known ritual or ceremony was the worship of a python snake over 70,000 years ago in southeastern Africa. Early humans also knew of physical healing methods as well. They covered wounds with salves made from plants. They also wore protective amulets and charms. Their basic methods involved the entire community or band, as they knew their fate was tied and bound with each other. Much of their focus was on healing and protecting the group or their immediate environment. According to anthropologist Margaret Mead, one of the earliest evidences of healing was discovering a corpse dated 36,000 years ago with a healed fracture. For it to have healed in a largely nomadic society meant someone had to care for the individual, set the fracture, and carry them from one site to the next. This was no accidental act. It took knowledge, concern, and deliberate intention. The first methods of healing after ceremonies all involved some kind of manual application, the use of the hands. Whether it was cutting a piece of bone out of the skull to release evil spirits, or early forms of midwifery, massage, or touch, early healing involved the hands. Next would have been the selective use of foods, herbs, animal, fish, and insect parts, fungi, algae, and ingested minerals to effect a physical change back to normal. Indigenous healing. Early systems of healing in Paleolithic times, roughly 300,000 to 12,000 years ago, have been preserved and brought into the modern era by some of the 400 million indigenous people still living today. Dubbed shamanism by modern anthropologists, It is still practiced to varying degrees by hunter and gathering societies. San Bushman. One of the oldest examples, by arguably the oldest people on earth, the San or CAYCJ of Southeastern Africa, is the boiling dance. In the few villages that have clung to the old ways, if any member of the San community gets ill and its cause not physically apparent, the entire community turns its attention to that individual. By moving, singing, chanting, and praying, the healing energy in each individual, Num, begins to be awakened. Some feel it more than others. In a few with more experience, it makes them go into trance called Kia by the San. Once in this state, the healer or healers can heal all in attendance, including the initial person. This ceremony in the past might be done more than 4 times a month, each lasting several days. Healing was a priority. Indigenous Australians. Each indigenous society had its own particular ceremonies and practices, but they are all united in the belief that there is an intimate relationship between the forces of nature, the environment, human society, and the individual. Some groups use what are now known as hallucinogens to enter into a present time trance that may involve a vision, dream, power animal, or artifact. It may involve intense sweating. These practices arose out of the awareness that food deprivation, sweating, running, dancing, chanting, praying, in a ceremonial way produced physiological changes that allowed a shift in reality, a glimpse into another world. These practices often produce an internal feeling of oneness with the environment, a feeling of integration and completeness, yet still aware of individual reality. Often, they are done for collective healing. The indigenous people of Australia call it dream time. Dream time for indigenous Australians involves an awareness that before this world, there was another, one governed directly by the shape-shifting spirits. Being able to appeal to and appease these spirits in dream time and being aware at all times of their existence is the source of many ceremonies, many for healing. This would also include appropriately ingested or inhaled animal parts or potions. Huachol. In Mexico, the Huachol or Huarica utilize practices preserved for thousands of years. They, possibly more than any other Western Hemispheric group, have held on to their teachings. Theirs is a world where everything is connected. In Shamanic Wisdom by Thomas Pinkson, a psychiatrist allowed to study and live with them for over 20 years, writes, all aspects of creation are perceived as conscious, alive, containing power, purpose, intelligence, and meaning. Much of their practice, while ingesting peyote and ethnogen, is to remain and respect the light, the sun, and sacred fire, Tateware. By remaining in the light, the Kapuri, or Great Spirit, enters the body, mind, and spirit, bringing with it illuminating guidance, healing love, and warm, good feelings of knowing that the Great Spirit is present always. These 3 examples are just brief snapshots at forms of healing that are as ancient as humanity itself and have stood the test of time. In many instances, especially used in cross-cultural formats and with respect, shamanism can be as or more effective in emotional and psychological disorders than Western medicine. These practices have stood the test of time. Healing in ancient civilizations. With the rise of the first urban civilizations over 12,000 years ago, came the introduction of zoonoses, animal-borne diseases. And this is Göbekli Tepe in Turkey from 12,000 years ago. So, while shamanism was still being practiced by indigenous people on the outskirts of civilization in the mountains, deserts, plains, and jungles, urban groups had to battle infectious disease. With agriculture for the first time being able to sustain large populations, lifespans of ancient populations lengthened. This allowed for the introduction of chronic and degenerative disease. Egypt. In ancient Egypt, healing found one of its most sophisticated and advanced expressions. Ancient Egypt, or Kemet, the Black Land, developed one of the most effective and modern medical systems of the ancient world. Because of its wealth, it was able to afford physicians the luxury of being able to specialize, thus becoming the foundation of modern and manual medicine, surgery, and diagnosis. Due to their belief in mummification, the early Egyptians had advanced knowledge of human anatomy. This spurred their curiosity around physiology, how the human body works. The sum result of this is a body of medical and healing knowledge that forms the basis of modern medical thinking carried through Greece and Rome. The foundation of healing and medical knowledge in Egypt lies within the concept of Mudao. Mudao is an aspect of waste, primarily fecal matter, that makes the body toxic and poisoned. Its regulation and smooth excretion in all facets connote health. Additionally, ancient Egypt, which originated in the Nubian South, had medical specialists, including surgeons. In the Edwin Smith Papyrus, which mainly covers surgical and manual practices and methods, there are examples of brain surgery, the setting of fractures, and techniques foreshadowing modern-day bone setting, osteopathy, and chiropractic. Egypt's knowledge in anatomy, medicine, and chemistry was advanced. The blue pigment on many of its walls, monuments, and mummies have nanopigments that look like today's nanotechnology. China. Ancient China's knowledge on healing, health, and medicine is vast. Over 5,000 years ago, and typified by the classic, The Yellow Emperor's Guide to Chinese Medicine, it is characterized by its concept of qi. Qi is the life force and is directly related to the Tao, the way, or energy of life and nature. In the human body, qi is said to run in 10 meridians. On the meridians lie hundreds of entry points used in acupuncture to stimulate and regulate qi. Tai Chi Chuan, one of 3 internal systems of self-defense and qi cultivation, along with Qigong, allows practitioners the ability to channel and move qi to various organs and parts of the body. When the qi is evenly distributed and flowing evenly through the meridians, the individual experiences good health. India. The traditional healing system of India is Ayurveda. Over 3,000 years old, Ayurveda comprises a vast array of remedies, potions, recommendations, dietary rules, exercises, and spiritual instructions. A key aspect of Ayurveda involves balance of the 3 doshas, or basic health constitutions. Vata, representing air in the nervous system, Pitta, for fire and enzymes, and Kapha, for water and earth and mucus. Similar to both Egypt and China, India also has a system of exercise, Hatha Yoga, which really is a subset of Raja Yoga, the science of meditation. Yoga's goal, similar to Tai Chi, and I would add Kemetic Yoga, is the strengthening of the body to withstand the long hours of meditation. Prana, the energy sustaining the body and connected to the spiritual energy of the universe, Atman, said to be in all things, is to be evenly distributed throughout the body. Prana can be assessed at various nadis, energetic points on the body similar to acupuncture points, but more numerous. Ayurvedic massage practitioners stimulate these points in their work intentionally. Greek medicine. Greek medicine, using the foundation set by Egypt, had its own system of medicine. Considered the backbone of European civilization, Greece was the cultural and political descendant of previous Mediterranean empires, like the Minoan. While existing 1,000 years prior, it was first codified and systematized by the Greek philosopher Hippocrates in the 4th century BC. Its beliefs and practices center on balance of the 4 humors of blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Faced with unprecedented bouts of infectious disease, Greek physicians were prompt to devise systems of diagnosis, courses of treatment, and prognosis, all critical elements in later Western medicine. Called the father of medicine, Hippocrates' writings from the historical foundation form the historical foundation of allopathic medicine today. His oath is taken by all modern physicians, urging them to, above all else, do no harm. Galen, in the 1st century AD, and one of Greece's most revered, contributed much to modern understanding of anatomy, physiology, and pathology. It is he who is credited with first identifying that the circulatory system was filled with blood, not air. His writings would later be translated into Arabic and later back into European languages, helping to end their dark ages. Arab medicine. Drawing heavily from its tribal desert traditions, the legacy of Egypt and Mesopotamia, and Greek writings, particularly Galen, the Arab system of healing and medicine combines elements of both its folk tradition and the beginnings of modern medicine. Called Unani, it centers both the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad and the renowned physician Avicenna, who is credited with translating Greek medical ideas into Arabic. His teachings would later be translated back into Latin and Greek and revive medical thinking in Europe coming out of its dark ages. On one hand, Arab medicine resembles Greek in that it too placed an emphasis on humoral balance, diet, and hygiene. However, underneath those teachings were the Prophet and the Quran's admonitions that human illnesses were due to improper thoughts, feelings, actions, and worship of Allah, and not following the dictates of Islam. In this context, the remedy would consist of fasting, asking for forgiveness, astaghfirullah, remembrance of Allah, dhikr, and prescribed prayers like the Salat al-Tasbih, to be said a specific number of times a day, 40, for a specific number of days, either 40, 80, or 120. It is Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. Glory be to God. All praise be to God. There is no God but Allah. Allah is the greatest. Today's Mediterranean diet, largely consisting of vegetables, low-fat cheese, olives and olive oil, unleavened bread, and small amounts of meat, is an outgrowth of all the surrounding cultures filtered through Arab cuisine. New World civilizations. The medical and healing ideas of Mesoamerica originate largely with the Olmec civilization. It forms the basis of the systems of the Teotihuacans, Toltecs, Mayans, and Aztecs. Called Tecoro by the Aztecs, it was a complex and sophisticated system utilizing divination, astronomy, and polarity theory. Differing from both Greek and Arab medicine, Mesoamerican cultures stressed the balancing of the polarities of hot and cold. The Cruz Badiano Codex, written in 1522 as a present to the King of Spain, is one of the oldest Mexican texts, outlining the medical use of plants, herbs, poultices, food, and other remedies, incorporating knowledge culled from over 3,000 years of practice. First known as Labelas de Medicinalibus Indorum Urbis. It was written by an Aztec physician, Martin de la Cruz, in Nahuatl. It was translated into Latin by Juan Bariano, an Aztec professor at the newly created College of Santa Cruz in 1522. It had a detailed outline of the specific use of plants, edible, medicinal, ornamental, and economic. Additionally, Mesoamerican healers knew how to set fractures, heal wounds, treat infections, and ward off and treat infectious disease, especially since the Spanish and African slaves introduced many that they had no immunity against. While written to impress the Spanish of Aztec acumen similar to European concepts, it contained a wealth of information on the use of herbs and medicine to treat psychiatric disorders. Native American healing and medicine. While there is no one system encompassing all 500 or more North American indigenous nations, there are some attributes they all share. They all share a common belief in respecting Mother Earth, cleanliness, and the healing power of food and herbs. Like other traditional systems, but maybe with more emphasis, Native American healing stressed the importance of the body's own healing powers. Therefore, its use of prayers, herbs, and remedies were designed to assist the innate healing powers within each person, rather than serve as a counter-irritant like in Western medicine. Furthermore, their use of sweats, fasting, prayer, entheogen plants to induce visions in their non-hierarchical view of nature formed the foundation of a system that made them strong, robust, and extremely fit. Ironically, it is often their or the enslaved Africans' medical and healing knowledge that saved the early European settler colonialists in their early days of conquest. Similar to Africans and other indigenous people the world over, their beliefs on health and healing involved the collective well-being of the entire community, animals, nature, and the stars. Theirs was an integrated, inherently holistic system. Yet, there are detailed remedies for specific ailments like asthma, gout, diabetes, fevers, arthritis, venereal diseases, and many more. Their techniques included bleeding, cupping, enemas, massage, surgery, and treatment for psychic possession. Many times, native healers held solutions that baffled early American doctors. Folk medicine. While not truly a definitive term, folk medicine refers to the healing methods of poor and working class people. This refers to middle-aged medicine and the healing methods of enslaved New World Africans, indentured Europeans, Mexican workers, and Asian immigrants. Characterized as the Dark Ages, because of the fall of the Roman Empire, the period between 400 AD and the European Renaissance in the late 1400s lacked public health and running water. Diseases like the plague, diphtheria, smallpox, and measles ran rampant. The most feared was leprosy. Formal medical knowledge was limited, but the French king Charlemagne instituted a rule that each monastery build a hospital and alongside it, a medical school. Yet, the masses relied upon their own resources and used an assortment of herbs, roots, and home remedies to ward off and treat disease. Local healers and midwives referred to translated copies of hundreds of years old copies of Dioscorides' 5-volume De Materia Medica. It is the precursor to all modern pharmacopoeias. It is a compilation of medicines used in times past, including ancient Egypt, Greece, Rome, and Arab medicine. With a list of over 600 plants, it formed the basis of medicine, folk and formal, and its contents were remembered and recited orally to communities far flung from any urban area. African American root work. Root work consists of healing methods and modalities of Africans enslaved in America, consisting of practices hailing from West and Central Africa, Native America, and Europe. Its amalgamation came out of necessity. Africans enslaved in America were often denied formal medical care, but as it was very ineffective and often dangerous anyway, the enslaved methods proved more efficacious. Herbs like High John the Conqueror root was used for rheumatism and joint pain. Cayenne pepper was used for digestion and to stimulate metabolism. And foods like okra was used for bowel disorders. They all came from Africa. Enslaved Africans were subjected to the most brutal medical experimentation. Therefore, they did not trust American medicine or its doctors. This mistrust lingers today. Yet they came from Africa with medical knowledge, herbs, and foods, and were often called upon to help slave masters and their families. Onesimus, a slave owned by Cotton Mather in Boston, helped lessen the severity of a smallpox outbreak in 1721 with his knowledge of inoculation, a forerunner of modern vaccinations. Africans in West Africa had noticed cowpox would help inoculate them against smallpox and had been using it for years before the Europeans. Mexican American healing. Mexican Americans often were denied access to formal medical care as well, and relied on their long-standing use of traditional healers, curanderos and sobador. Curanderismo encompasses herbs, foods, and spiritual cures based on native spirituality with an overlay of Catholic prayers. Similar to African woodworkers, curanderos or curanderas believe most illnesses have a spiritual origin, and the cure lies within cleansing, repentance, and making amends. Yerberos work primarily with herbs. Huseros and sobadores work with massage and joints, whereas pateras as midwives. Others work through prayer. Ahuasqueros work with the hallucinogenic ayahuasca, leading vision quests to find power animals. Peyoteros use peyote to access realms of knowledge and links them to traditions kept vibrant by indigenous groups like the Washoe. Modern medicine. Modern Western medicine, originating in ancient Egypt, developed in Greece and Rome, and preserved by Arab physicians and scholars, is the dominant form of medicine and healing today. Buoyed by capitalism and the riches commandeered through settler colonialism, allopathic medicine is based on anatomy, physiology, pathology, and the concept of homeostasis. Homeostasis, a physiologic concept of internal physical and chemical equilibrium, is essentially about balance, harkening back to its ancient, more holistic roots. Allopathic medicine is based primarily on the counterintuitive effect. Its medicines are designed to overcome or attack a specific illness directly. Until the advent of antibiotics, vaccinations, and public health measures of improved sanitation, water, and waste removal, modern medicine's efficacy was not greatly superior to other systems of healthcare. Vaccinations for smallpox, polio, measles, diphtheria, and yellow fever greatly diminished infectious disease worldwide and increased the public confidence in medicine. Modern medicine's prosthetic implants have greatly benefited patients in the 21st century. Cochlear implants, joint replacement surgeries, pacemakers have all improved the quality of life for millions. Today, modern medicine is faced with epidemics, pandemics, and the varying conditions created by climate change. Its biggest challenge is transforming its search for magic bullets and universal cures into a full holistic appreciation of the whole, mind, body, and soul. Complementary and alternative medicine. What is called complementary or alternative medicine is in fact disciplines and practices that have roots in antiquity. It is simply the natural progression of the indigenous, folk, and medical knowledge brought forward into the 19th, 20th, and 21st centuries. Homeopathy. Homeopathy is a system of medicine that functions on the principle of like cures like. Founded by German physician Samuel Hahnemann in 1796, it draws on the heritage of the doctrine of signatures, which taught that plants that resemble body parts were for that organ or region. Homeopathy is a field of energetic medicine, and in some respects more similar to Chinese and Ayurvedic medicine of India. Its miasmas resemble the four humors of Greece. Its central tenet revolves around the idea that a substance that will cause a set of reactions and symptoms in a healthy person, if given to a person with those same set of symptoms, the illness or symptoms would leave because of the idea that two like forces repel each other. And the smaller the dose, the more effective. Most homeopathic remedies are greatly diluted. The controversy arises because technically, patients are not given any actual medicine. Yet, for close to 120 years, it competed on a near equal footing with allopathic medicine, with its own medical schools and hospitals nationwide. It was also due to the fact that 18th and 19th century medicine was often dangerous, with bloodletting, mercury-tainted medicine, experimental and ineffective surgery. Homeopathy provided a less toxic alternative. Eclectic medicine. Also providing a less toxic alternative was the eclectic school of medicine of Samuel Thompson. The eclectics through Thompson propagated the idea that people can heal themselves through diet, herbs, baths, sunshine, and tuning into nature. By disseminating a vast amount of literature on diverse health subjects, Thompson was able to interest ordinary working people to study physiology and basic anatomy at home and treat illnesses themselves. Established in the early 1800s, it laid the foundation for subsequent natural fields of medicine and healing that have blossomed in the 21st century as part of the New Age and Back to Nature movements of the 60s, 70s on to today. Naturopathy. Naturopathy, developed in America by Benedict Lust in the late 19th century, was a direct outgrowth of the eclectic school. He had gone to the Eclectic Medical College of New York. Naturopaths use the foundation of natural medicine, including diet instructions, herbs, exercise, baths, fasting, enemas, and other natural methods. They diagnose, write up treatment plans, prognose, and review patients similar to medical physicians, but the cures they recommend are different. Naturopaths refrain from toxic medicines and prefer herbal, homeopathic, and other natural remedies. Manual medicine. Schools of manual medicine also began to proliferate in the 19th century. Magnetic healing, massage, osteopathy, and chiropractic all got their formal start during that time. Magnetic healing. Magnetic healing is an offshoot of the Vitalists, which believed that health was dependent on the élan vital, or vital force, animating the body. Using polarity therapy or polarity theory of either too little energy or too much, practitioners use their hands to channel the sun's and earth's energies. If the patient has too much energy, as is a fever or high blood pressure, the magnetic healer would make passes with their hands close to the body from the ground upwards to cool them off with earth energy. Likewise, if too cool, the passes would be from the head, sun, downward. Osteopathy. Another field of alternative medicine to come out of both the eclectic school and magnetic healing is osteopathy. Osteopathy was founded by Andrew Taylor Still in 1875 around the idea that structure and function are intimately related. In the past, osteopaths or DOs manipulated the joints of the body, with many recommending diet changes and herbal remedies. Today, osteopaths are a little different from medical doctors, as through hard-fought court battles, they achieved medical equivalency in the 60s. Chiropractic. Chiropractic was developed by D.D. Palmer in 1895. But like osteopathy, it draws on thousands of years of bone setting, magnetic healing, and manipulating spines in ancient Egypt. Chiropractic straddles two worlds. Its roots lie in vitalism, the belief in the vital force that animates and sustains the health and wellness of the body. Chiropractors call it innate intelligence. In many ways, chiropractors' innate intelligence is analogous to Qi in Chinese medicine, Prana in Indian medicine, Huna in traditional Hawaiian healing, and many other energy concepts within indigenous healing. On the other hand, chiropractic is an officially recognized profession, like osteopathy within the larger medical healthcare system. But unlike osteopathy, chiropractors have maintained some degree of autonomy, not seeking to practice medicine. While incorporating, in many cases, the natural diet, herbal, and lifestyle modifications of the eclectics and naturopaths, chiropractic's central tenet revolves around the spinal adjustment. Legally confined to diagnosing and treating spinal conditions of the neuromusculoskeletal origin, chiropractors have had some success addressing functional disorders as well. The most popular alternative healing and medical practice in America, chiropractic is ideally suited to serve as a bridge between traditional healing and modern medicine. The future of healing. As a result of the confluence of cultural movements, New Age, African-American holistic, neo-shamanistic, and indigenous-centered, along with current political turmoil, infectious pandemics, and climate change, healing in all of its facets will be needed. It will be needed individually, collectively, and planetarily. A key challenge will be creating healing paradigms that are holistic. Traditional indigenous concepts and forms of healing must be incorporated with alternative practices currently being used, along with the most humane, safe, and non-toxic aspects of increasingly technologic medicine. Developing a science that can utilize and investigate non-materialist concepts like Qi, Prana, innate intelligence, electromagnetism, and other yet to be discovered human fields, while still exploring the fascinating possibilities of nanomedicine, robotic surgery, synthetic biology, and artificial intelligence will be also the challenge. We are witnessing the introduction of healing dialogue within social justice movements. People are recognizing the impact of racial, generational, and personal trauma and are incorporating healing modalities within their organizational structure. Much of this work centers around emotional healing, which is vital, while others are delving into their indigenous roots. Many, however, lack the component most addressed previously, physical health. In the present era, many of the ideas around diet, exercise, and natural healing have been skewed in favor of addressing emotional trauma, but all areas must be addressed. Therefore, all of it is needed: traditional indigenous healing, alternative healing, and technological medicine. Science is needed too, but a holistic science. A holistic paradigm must be developed that recognizes the importance of the whole person, body, mind, and spirit, undergirded with an understanding of the importance of movement. This paradigm must reach other sectors of society: the courts, business, legislatures, schools, churches, and the tech community. With our increased usage of digital technology, especially neurological implants, as in mind-computer interface technology, it is possible that an entirely different set of illnesses and disorders will emerge. It can be foreseen that new nervous system illnesses producing different kinds of stress. What will be the evolutionary effect of that? Humans are nature's most adaptable creatures, and the future will demand that we adapt to possible unending pandemics, and the natural disasters worsened by climate change? What will be our healing formula for a planet 3 degrees warmer than today? Will our methods be adequate to address health in space, underground, or in underwater cities? These are just a few of the myriad number of questions around healing in the future, foremost of which is, can we heal the planet? Thank you. These are the references. This is just a few. As you can imagine, there's a lot of references here. While I largely wrote this out of my head, obviously you can imagine I had to then do a good bit of maybe at least 25 little research calls. And I even bought a couple of books within the last couple of days. I always learn a great deal when I do these as well. That's how you can reach me. And I cannot do that anymore, but I just wanted to put it on there. Thank you for your attention. And yeah, Ashe.